Welcome everyone. Good morning. We're going to get started at 9:31 and we'll be joined shortly, I'm sure, by Commissioner Trosso, but we do have quorum, so we're going to get going. So I'll start off with a completion acceptance of agenda. Does anyone want to make any edits to the agenda? No, otherwise I'll get a move for Commissioner Rahman and Commissioner Hopkins. Move in second. All in favor? And Steve, you might play on your camera.
It's not there.
There's only one participant.
Oh, Stu was there.
He was there.
He was here, like he was in there, so I wonder if he just lost connection. That's us.
Well, never mind. That was just warm up. Hey, Sam. We do with you. We had Steve, we lost him. Oh, great. There. Do that over again. I get to do the gavel. Come on, it's here. It needs to be you. It needs to be you. All right. Yeah, you. Can you hear us, Steve?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Great, we're gonna get started. Thanks. Good. I'm gonna stop you. Okay. We're gonna do that again. Okay. Officially calling the meeting to order at 9:33 a.m. Commissioner Floza and Morgan are away. They have a big budget reveal, I suppose, this morning, so they won't be joining us, but we do have quorum. So I'll move on to acceptance of agenda. So moved by Commissioner Rahman, seconded by Commissioner Hopkins. All in favor? And any opposed? So that agenda is approved. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Nope, seeing none. Along, so that approval of minutes from September 29th, 2025. Any edits to the minutes or comments? Nope, seeing none. Move to accept by Commissioner Rahman and seconded by Commissioner Hopkins. All in favor? Okay, any opposed? That carries. All right, that moves us right along to presentations and delegations. So we have a presentation by Monthly Services and then a delegation by Ms. Sadum. Excellent. So first we'll go with Deputy Chief Scott Guilford. I'll welcome you to the table up front if you could. So this is regarding officers patrolling transit currently being implemented in the core areas. And so the police services is happy to come and present what's going on and answer any questions we might have about that. So I'll turn it over to you for 5 minutes and then there might be a couple of questions afterwards, but welcome.
Thank you very much, Sharon, through you. Thank you for the opportunity to come here and speak before the board on this latest strategy that we have. So it's really a basic strategy. It's just about getting our police officers visible on LTC buses. It's about community engagement. It's really threefold. Number one, it's about community engagement. There's a large ridership on LTC buses that might never have the opportunity to engage in a positive way with the London Police Service. So it's a way to get on there, engage with community, be seen, be visible, answer any questions that people might have, and just continue to serve the public that we are all here to serve. Number two, it's to engage with the drivers. I think everybody here knows that there are occasionally safety concerns with the drivers on LTC, and just that more exposure by being there, maybe to get involved in a situation, be able to head something off before it gets too severe. Or maybe just in a proactive manner. People see us starting to ride the buses a bit more often, and they know that there's a chance that the police are going to be there, so they're less likely to engage in any type of behavior. And then number three, just again, to engage with our vulnerable population that are in the downtown, midtown or Old East Village. They do tend to get on the buses every once in a while. So it's again, an opportunity to engage with that population as well. We have gone on there with our nurse police team. We have been on there with CMHA workers. So just to see what help we can offer them and provide to them. And what's good about this strategy is it doesn't really take any time away from your the LTC schedule. We'll either jump on and ride for a couple of stops if our officers are going from Old East Village to Midtown or Midtown to downtown. So it's a bit more efficient that way. Or if a bus is just stopped somewhere, wait for passengers or wait to leave for their next stop, just get on, say hi. Ensure everybody is okay and safe and able to get off, and the bus is able to carry on with their route. So all in all, I think it's a positive step forward. It's back when I started 33 years ago, we used to start our when you're brand new on the street, you would start doing foot patrol essentially downtown. You wouldn't get a cruiser until you were probably a year or two on. So one of the things you would do is end up riding on LTC and again, engaging with the drivers, with the public, maybe taking the opportunity in February to get a little bit warmer. But it's a good step, I believe, in increasing engagement. So that in a nutshell, that's what it is. Right now, it's primarily in the downtown area with our foot patrol officers. And again, when they need to get from one area to the other, they're able to just jump on a bus for a stop or two, get where they need to go. But that visibility, I think, is key. That's it in a nutshell. Open to any questions.
Thank you, much appreciated. I appreciate you making time this morning to come on down on Monday morning. So I would take a motion to receive the letter of delegation and then we can move to questions or comments. Moved by Commissioner Hopkins, seconded by.
That's a question, sorry.
Sure, before I do a motion.
Well, I'm happy to accept the presentation and have some questions about the presentation.
Sure.
So do you want me to accept it to put it on the floor?
Yeah, we can motion to receive the delegation.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, so moved by Commissioner Hopkins, seconded by Commissioner Robin. Sure. Okay, and then any questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you. First off, I just wanted to say thank you to Deputy Chief Guilford and to Chief as well for his work. I know I had a preliminary conversation with him in early September about this opportunity to have police officers participate more actively on our bus service. And I think I was really overwhelmed by the response and the ability to enact something very quickly. So I want to say thank you for that, because I think what we were hearing in the public is there are safety concerns from riders, and this was a way to have more presence on the bus service to help allay some of those concerns. So I think that that's really well appreciated, and I think that it just shows the ability to have a positive working relationship also across both LTC and LPS. So thanks again for that. With respect to the communication that's here, one of the challenges I have is I'm not sure of how long this program is going to actually extend for. So having measurements associated with it may be a little bit more challenging than something where we're just at this point doing something introductory. So although I always love measurement, I do think that maybe it's a little early to come up with some metrics associated until we get a sense of, you know, how long and how that measurement could be done. So just thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you very much for being here. I have a couple questions and I guess just following up on Commissioner Rahman's questions around the program. So through you, Madam Chair, to Sergeant Guilford, would you tell us a little bit more as the program started and will it be continuous program? I just have to sort of have a better understanding about the program itself.
Yeah, no, thank you, and Chair through you. It's been started for approximately 2-3 weeks now. We started getting the strategy drawn up at the end of September, and I believe it's been going since the first week of October. So it's good. We do have some metrics that we're tracking as far as how often we're on the buses and any issues that we deal with that come up. As far as when it's going to end, we haven't set a timeline for that. I don't know that we really have a timeline. In my opinion, we should get back to this being the way we do business, right? For people that are in the downtown area to be able to jump on the bus. Once we start getting our backlog of calls cleared up in the rest of the city, I would like to see it expanded, right? Where you could have maybe not riding on the buses, but maybe just if a bus is stopped, and again, just at a scheduled stop, that an officer sees that and is able to stop it and just say hi sort of thing and have engagement that way. Right now, I think the need is in the downtown area, but the greater need, I should say. But it's something that I think should be a way of business going forward.
Yeah, and just as a follow-up to that, so it's that partnership more than a program or a
Yeah.
project.
That's right.
So how is the partnership then between police services and LTC? Like, do you share that information? And what does that partnership look like? You mentioned there's a bit of metrics, but
Yeah, we will
do,
be capturing our metrics as far as what we're doing, how we're doing it, how often we're doing it on the buses. I think we've had a strong partnership, not just from this program. I mean, we deal with LTC fairly frequently, and again, a lot to do with gathering evidence for any criminal activities that happen on the buses and with camera systems and stuff like that. So I think for one, we have a good, positive relationship with the LTC. One that I think this will only enhance and will continue to strengthen that partnership.
no, I think that's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lehman, do you have any questions? Yeah, Commissioner Lehman?
Yeah, I just curious, and either the deputy chief can answer this or our staff. Did the police take this action as a result of concerns raised to them from the community, or did the LTC reach out to the police and bring these concerns forward, or was it both?
Thank you, Chair, through you. I think it's been both. It has been, it came up through LTC, and I can't say specifically who brought it up right now. I just can't think of the name. But then once we started looking into it and seeing that, yeah, there has been an uptake in calls responding to LTC drivers and that, and issues on buses. It just seemed like, you know what, it just makes sense. And for the amount of, it doesn't really take a lot of time for us to do this. It's about, again, hopping on for a stop or two for downtown patrol officers. It's about jumping onto a bus when it stops. So it just seems to make sense. And I am very curious to see our stats of our calls with responding to complaints from LTC drivers ends up reducing over the next 4 or 6 months. And then also anecdotally, just seeing what the drivers think about it as well, and the general public, so.
And then, I don't know, if staff, would they comment on a question?
No.
Commissioner Lehman, did you have a follow-up?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, I'm sorry, through the chair, I have to interrupt this by making a point of order. And that is, I just received a communication from a member of the public who says they tried to, log on to the remote and they could not do it, so they're unable to attend the meeting.
You don't.
Everything, this is recording the plan too. It's not live.
Okay, well, I'll come back to that later, but let me know when it's my turn to speak.
I think, yeah, it is your turn.
Okay, first of all, thank you for coming, and I really do appreciate what you're trying to do. And I hope that my comments are not taken off the contrary. Does the LTC, collect and retain incident reports that would help inform where this program would best be employed?
Through the chair, certainly, yes, I mean, any incident that occurs on bus is recorded and we can gauge by area of the city if there are trends that we would identify, and we certainly deploy our inspectors to those specific areas if that's the case.
And were there discussions with, through the chair, were there discussions with the police service in implementing and getting this program started, in terms of, reviewing those reports?
Through the chair, no, not at this time. I mean, I think as the deputy chief indicated, you know, there are greater issues in the areas that are currently being targeted. I think our data would support that. While it wasn't shared, I would suggest that our data would support that.
Thank you. The next question is, I'm still not clear whether the, whether the information that's collected by the London Police Service in the course of their, visits to the bus is going to be, shared with LTC in this commission.
Oh, absolutely, it will be. Sorry, Chair, through you. Yes, yeah, and, yeah, well, we want to be as transparent as possible with any type of strategy like this, so we can, again, we can collaborate together to see, what the, actual effect is, whether it's having a positive influence and whether we need to, change focus, change how we're doing it. And part of that will be through shared information.
My next question, to the chair, is with respect to the consultation between LTC staff and the police before this was started. And I would like to get a little bit more clarification, if possible, as to what the nature of the communication from the LTC, if you could identify who it was, when it happened, and what the scope of that discussion was.
Yeah, and Chair, through you, I'm not able to speak to that this morning because the person that that worked at or interacted with the LTC staff was off on holiday, so I wasn't able to get through to them to get that information for this one.
Okay, and may I ask whether whether there's any other staff, maybe the director, has that information?
Through the chair, I attended a meeting with Commissioners Frank and Rahman and a member of the public. This idea came up and it was a let's reach out to the police and see if they're interested.
At that time, was there any thought to the advisability of bringing the idea of implementing this program to the board, to the commission?
Yeah, I can take that. I feel like that's a commissioner question. And at the time, it was, again, a discussion between the three of us and a member of the public. And so afterwards, we reached out to the chief and said, is this possible? And then chief then fairly swiftly implemented it. So I don't think that even between the conversation we had, there was a meeting. Because the chief seemed identified as an operational need, although it would be, probably the chief would be best to answer that question. But Commissioner Truss, I don't know if that satisfies your question.
No, it actually, it doesn't. And again, with all due respect, to the police, and I would not want to get involved in asking you for operational information. However, this I believe that implementing a program like this would have been, I believe it would have been better had we thought this out, had it been brought to the board with the staff report, which could have included many of these bullets that are included in communication number one. And I'm just, I don't know if curious is a good word, or wondering why this wasn't brought to the board to at least consult with us before this implementation. And that's for whoever wants to answer it.
I mean, I could answer it again and say the same thing that I just said, which was we had a discussion, we spoke with the chief moved forward quickly on it, and now we're having a discussion at this point, which is why it's on the agenda.
This discussion, could you specify for me when this discussion happened? In other words, was it before, has this something that's emerged since our last commission meeting, or is this something that happened before the last commission meeting?
I'd have to pull up my agenda, but to the best of my recollection, we had a meeting in September with the member of the public, and then had discussions towards the end of September. So it would have been between the two meetings. Commissioner Johnson?
Well, okay, I'm just gonna say this then. I'm not gonna repeat myself by saying, you know, due respect to the officer who I'm glad you're here. I believe this should have been brought to the commission. And I think it would have been better for it to be brought to the commission for a decision. That didn't happen. I would like to see, if not at this meeting, at the next meeting, a more formal resolution. From what I've heard, I don't have any objection to this. This is not about me not wanting your officers on our bus. It's about our process. It's about our internal process as a commission that answers to the public. And I believe that this is, while there are aspects of this that may be considered operational from the police service, I think there are also aspects of this that are also considered policy in terms of this commission. Analogous to schools, analogous to the police making visits to other agencies that have their own form of governance. And I'm looking for direction as to how I would do that, because I do think it's important that for no other reason, public perception, that this commission take responsibility for this and treat this as a policy, issue. And I'm just looking for some direction as to how to possibly do that.
Do you want to make a motion in regards to what you'd like?
Well, I would like to make a motion then that do we have a title for this program, Public Safety on Transit? Program, as discussed at this meeting. I would like to put this on the agenda for the next LTC Commission meeting, along with the 5 bullets that were raised in communication number 1, for the purposes of devising a more definite purpose, scope of the program, and the deliverables and the method of evaluation of the program. And I would do that as a motion.
All right, and who wants to second that?
I'll second it for a discussion.
Sure. Supervisor Fisher. Okay. And perhaps I'll turn to staff if a November deadline is feasible and if you're able to collect this information.
Through the chair, but we certainly wouldn't be able to collect all of this information. As we said earlier, the program's just started. We can essentially bring a staff report back that says just this and what we talked about today. I'm not sure there would be anything to add to that at a November meeting.
Commissioner Hopkins?
I'd like a little bit of clarification, maybe through you to staff, from what I'm trying to understand what's happened and where we are here this morning. I understand it's not a program though, so I'm not exactly sure to the mover of the motion. And that's why I second it, so we can have that clarity around exactly what we're expecting out of this motion. But there's no information really to come back. My understanding is that not much has changed to the relationship other than we're having the conversation around the visibility of the police being on our, in our core area, on our transit. I'm not exactly sure if there's even a program. And so I won't be supporting the motion because I don't think there's any information that is gonna come out to us. And if I could just follow up, just make a comment, this is all a big surprise to me right now, so, I really, you know, I think it's a great program. It's not a program. The relationship between LTC and police services would encourage that, relationship, but to me, it's relationship building more than anything, and I think if we get into programs and even anything more than that, I think we have to be just a little bit cautious as to exactly what do we want from this. So I appreciate having the conversation here, but this whole
Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Trosser.
Well, whether you want to call this a program or a series of events that was placed in motion by virtue of some conversations, it's a thing, it's something we're doing. We've received the communication, number one, that raises some very, very good questions about it. And if you don't like the word program, we can use a different word. But my main point here, and if nobody else on this commission wants to support this point, that's fine, I'll move on. I think I'm clear that a relationship of this nature, which goes beyond the police's inherent ability to come on the buses if there's a call or disturbance, should have been brought to the commission. And I feel that this really is this is not about my feelings about the police service on the bus. It is about the relationship between commission management and the commission. May I also ask, was the drivers union consulted on this?
They were advised. To the chair.
Advised. Okay, well, my comments stand.
Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Lehman?
Yeah, I understand where Commissioner Trossel is going with this, and for me, it's kind of close to gray between policy and operational. However, I'm landing on the side of operational. This is an issue that the police saw a need, and LTC management, had indicated they would like. They reached out to the police with their concerns as well. So that's why I'm not going to support this motion. I do believe it lands on the operational side.
Any further comments or questions? I'll just share from the chair. So I can appreciate Commissioner Tross's perspective in this, and I too am generally interested, not necessarily in a report back on all these outcomes, because I don't think we have all of them, but I am interested in understanding if there are any ways that we can collect some of the metrics through our usual methods, like the voice of the customer or like the call operators who are taking feedback. That way, in the same way that the police are bringing forward some metrics on how often you're on the buses and any incidents come up, is there a way that LTC could be sharing data for feedback? So at this point, I'm just wondering if we could just do a collection of metrics over time. So my question would be to Chris Collection if we have that ability.
Through the chair, as I said earlier, we certainly do collect metrics of incidents, and we have all of the locations. So that's something that we could certainly mine through that data and see if there's been an impact from the time the program has been put in place. We can do those comparators. Again, you need to be comparing like time. So you don't necessarily want to compare, this week versus last week. You want kind of a more extended time frame. And that was my point about a November report is probably too soon. That's not to say we can't do some assessment, further down the road.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm not gonna support the motion on the floor because I would like to figure out when we have enough metrics to be able to have a good analysis going on. But appreciate the commissioner's perspective.
No,
Commissioner Tressa, I'll ask you not to just say no when somebody has comments, but I
Okay.
can recognize your
well, when you'll do that, I'll speak.
Commissioner Tressa.
My intention was not to, ask for the metrics to be collected by November and reported back, which seems to be something that we can't do. I understand that. My intention was to, set up the framework for collecting the metrics so it could be reported back, from time to time. And that's what the intention of my motion was.
Thank you.
So I've heard a lot of opposition based on, not being able to get the metrics back to us by November. Given that I believe I've clarified this, I just wanted to put that on the table, because it seems to me as if there's more to the opposition here than simply, the ability to get the metrics back to us by November. This fundamentally goes to the question of the relationship between the staff, the executive director, and this commission.
Thanks for your comments. Okay, any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. That's been moved and seconded. All in favor? And any opposed? Okay, so that fails. 1, 2, 4. So we do have a motion to receive the delegation still on the floor, unless there's any. Commissioner, if you want to move it again? Okay, all right. Any final comments before we move to receive the delegation? Commissioner Foster?
Yes, I think that the chair asked a good question in terms of, well, she referred to the ongoing collection of this data. I do think it would be appropriate for us to capture that, which seemed to be an agreement, in the form of a motion. And since you said it, maybe you could repeat what you said you thought would be appropriate.
I am okay if not, because I heard from staff that they're collecting that data and provide it to us at a future date. I don't necessarily see the need to write a motion.
Well, if the staff says they're already doing it at a future date, then it should be a relatively non-controversial motion, would seem to me. I think it's important to minute this. And the way our minutes work, unless something is reduced to a motion, short of going back and listening to the tapes, it's not in the minutes. Now, I'm not going to put another motion on the table, but I think one of the commissioners who feels that we should be collecting this data, I would request that somebody put this on the table as a motion. And if not, then we'll just have to go back and listen to the tapes.
Thank you for your comments. Any final questions or comments? No? Okay, we've got a motion, moved and seconded to receive the delegation. All in favor? And any opposed? So that carries. So thank you very much, Deputy Chief. We'll be in touch, I'm sure, in the future to chat more, but really appreciate you coming and the work that you're doing. So
Thank you, it was a pleasure.
you're free to leave or you can stay and listen if you
I
want.
love meeting the issues, as much as I would love to stay, and hear your next speaker, I'm sure she's gonna do a great job.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So
Okay.
now I'll welcome Ms. Seda. Seda, wonderful. Welcome, and please take a seat. So you have 5 minutes to provide your delegation, and we'll set the timer and feel free to go.
Hi, ready, good morning. I want to start from a place of gratitude to all of you for the work that you did to make transit and transportation accessible for everyone. Without you, it would be a 2-hour walk to school every day back and forth. And with the weight of that backpack and Canadian winters, that would not be fun. So thank you all so much for the work that you do. For me, transit was something that I actually looked forward to after a long day of classes. It was a place where I could unwind. It's around like a 30 to 50 minute bus ride, depending on the time of day. And it was a place I could catch up on schoolwork, crochet, like a bunch of hobbies. But after the bus 10 change on September 1st, 2025, I found that reality changed for me and a lot of other students. And, the reason for that is that the anticipated time that was 26 to 36 minutes, that is on the LTC website and also in email communications is actually a bit, different than what's reality on the ground is for students. So, according to the survey, students are having up to 1 hour, 23 minutes on average, of like transit time during the day, just to get there and then multiply that by 2 to get back. And some students are even reporting up to 2 hours with bus delays and all the transfers. So that's getting pretty close to my walk. And so this is having a lot of implications on student well-being. They're reporting, decrease in their well-being, student attendance is getting affected, and also student capacity for part-time work. So I just want to read a story that is on the second page of student stories, like after that short one, towards the end. So it says, after an incredibly long day, I had to wait 30 minutes for the initial bus 127 to come due to delays. And then once I was dropped off to the next bus stop, I had to wait another 45 minutes. By the time I got home, I was in tears and I had only 5 minutes to eat dinner before I had to go to work. So I feel like this story really sums up those effects on, the amount of time that is causing distress for students, and also the fact that students are also juggling part-time work and having to do that for, to support their finances and also for like applications for like their next steps. And then another point that I found through the survey stories was that students are also feeling unsafe because of the transfers that are happening like late into the night. So before, when it was just one bus, it would be from campus to their homes directly, and they feel safe in both spots. But now with the transfer in the middle, some students are having to transfer to downtown to get to another bus, and just like the police officer just said, that is a place where there's a lot of people struggling with homelessness and drug use, and of course that's an issue to address. But having students deal with that situation after 1 week classes is really difficult. And then also the bus transfer from 127 to 10 on Sarnia. 2 students have reported getting yelled at by a homeless person on that intersection, getting flashed. So that was, which basically somebody would be exposing their something to them. And that just made them feel very unsafe. And also some people have reported their experience as women, at night by themselves, waiting for the next bus, also making them feel unsafe. So I think that, it's not just their well-being, attendance, and capacity for work, but also their safety, which I feel like should increase the urgency of the situation. And finally, a lot of students have reported just feeling overlooked, isolated, and just feeling like they're not getting that equitable access to transportation like everyone else. And if you think about it, all the other malls in London have a direct route to university. So whether it's Cherry Hill, Masonville, White Oaks, everyone has a direct route, but now Westmount is the only one that doesn't. And Saunders Secondary School is the high school with the most amount of students. So this is going to be a recurrent issue year by year if they don't address it as soon as possible, preferably before the winter. A lot of students reported that. So yeah, I just have a couple of recommendations that I put at the end. The baseline recommendation is to have a direct line from the Southwest area, so Westmount Mall, Western University. I proposed 3 different ideas. I know that the bus 10 change was because of the south-north corridor, which is great. So the option could be to connect bus 10 to campus again, but some other options would be to create an express line between Westmount Mall and campus. And then the third option would be potentially connecting the new bus 127 to Westmount Mall, which I think would work great as a short-term solution until that long-term solution of having an express line or an alternative bus line would take. So yeah, thank you all so much. I hope we can work together to make transit something to look forward to instead of dreading for our
Thank you. You were right on time. You had 10 seconds left. It's like you practiced. So at this point with delegations, we will ask you to sit back in the gallery as we debate and discuss with staff to see the recommendations. But I want to say thank you so much for coming and for bringing really specific requests forward. That's always helpful for us to focus in on. Thank you very much.
Do I have to answer any questions?
Not this time with delegations. They delegate and then we discuss with the board. But thank you very much. Thanks so much. So I'll turn it over to Commissioner Trosso.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion. And I'll just read it and I'll hand it to you. The delegation from Bayonne. Diadem, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name right. Thank you. And the corresponding communication number 2 is received. LTC staff is directed to investigate the proposals contained in the delegates communication number 2 with respect to Route 10 and service to with respect to Route 10 and report back to the commission on the proposed changes.
And do you have a seconder for that? Send it down forward for discussion. Would you like to speak to it, Commissioner Trosso?
Well, I think that was, first of all, I would like to thank you very much for coming. And the fact that we have students who have purchased bus passes who are so dedicated to the proper functioning of this service and the safety of students it's very good to see. This is not the first communication that we've received from students expressing some level of desire for improvement of the services. That's a nice way to put it. I'm wondering if I could ask staff why the change was made and why we do not have direct service to the Westmont Mall. I didn't realize that we have direct service from the other malls, but not Westmont. And why not Westmont?
Through the chair, through the 5-year service planning process, we heard feedback from the community that one of the biggest concerns that was raised is the fact that we do not have transit service set out in a grid network. So as through that process, we were working on looking at corridors where we could have service. So for instance, in this case on Wonderland, where there is a single bus that goes all the way from Southdale to Fanshawe Park Road along the Wonderland Road corridor. This is to provide that direct service along there. Because we were removing the route to Western University, where the 10 previously terminated, we added in the 127, which operates on a much higher frequency than the Route 10 previously did, to provide that connection. So now between on Sarnia Road, where students have to connect, there is a bus, 15 buses per hour between the Route 27, 127, and 31 that do take the students the rest of the way to the campus.
Commissioner Trosso.
Through the chair, was the student constituency consulted about this change before it happened?
Through the chair, we had our regular, because that was part of our 2025 service plan. So we went through our regular public participation. So we had an in-person session as well as an online survey to gather feedback, not only from the students, but also from the rest of the public within the City of London.
Commissioner Trosso.
Is there a reason at this point why it would be infeasible, impractical, cost prohibitive, or otherwise to not reconsider the matter of direct service from this mall to the campus?
Through the chair, if we were to take the 10 back and go to Western, we would be impacting all of the people that now have that service north of Sarnia Road. There is a significant ridership already in that area, and the service has only been in since August 31st. So that's expected to grow. If we were to make changes on any other routes, as was put through in the recommendation, that would have to go through the service planning process, because that would take hours and buses to be able to implement that. So that would have to be accommodated within the 18,000 hours that we have approved through the service plan.
Well, I'm going to yield to, I'll come back to this, but I'll yield to some other commissioners. The security problem of people having to get off the bus late at night is a very overriding concern for me, and I'm hoping other commissioners will address it, but I'll yield for now.
Any other, Commissioner Hopkins?
Yeah, maybe just as a follow-up to Commissioner Tressel's concerns around the safety issues, and thank you very much for being here and making us aware of the challenges that students have. The safety issue, I hear it not only from students, but also from residents. So, what are we doing to sort of create, these, areas, for safety for, I know, there's some areas that don't have lighting. I just want to have a better understanding, through you, Madam Chair, to, what we can do to sort of make these areas safer. When it comes to lighting, obviously, we can't, we don't have this magic wand that we can, make out, but what are we doing to create more safety?
So through the chair, we, a number of years ago, did replace all of our shelters with the new revised shelters that have the solar panel in, which then automatically light up at night. We also had a program that we implemented over the last 2 years that saw 150 stop locations in the city that were identified by customers as you know, feeling like they were unsafe, pardon me, with lights. So it's essentially a solar powered light on a pole. They're not lit all the time. The person waiting pushes a button and it stays on for a period of time, and then they can push it again if they're waiting, but it essentially illuminates the entire area around the stop. So that program has been put into place. So, you know, certainly we can continue to do things like that. I would caution that, you know, these issues are happening community-wide, and well, we certainly have a role to play in that. I don't think it's transit's role entirely to make the community safer for everyone, but certainly, you know, we can do what we can. And then the other comment would be, again, and I think Ms. Burns alluded to it, that unfortunately transferring is an inherent part of utilizing public transit. I mean, there are lots of riders that are able to complete that trip without having to transfer from one bus to another, but in the large portion of cases, riders do have to transfer to complete that transit trip. And again, we can certainly do what we can to make those locations safe, but you know, I think that's a broader issue.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you had me thinking back to transportation staff with the City of London, and when we put in new infrastructure projects, can we be looking at these shelters and putting in the lighting and things, especially as we develop into the suburbia areas, into our rural areas. So having said that, I would definitely encourage those conversations. Following up on the route, I understand that we've just changed the route 4 months ago, or September. So will you be sort of looking at that data and then coming back to us with the results of the changes that were made to this route? Or how does that work going forward?
Through the chair, and I can start, and Katie can certainly jump in, but essentially that's part of our annual service review process. And if you look in staff report number 12, where we're talking about the 2026 plan, we generally like to leave service changes in place for a year to see how they've, you know, how riders have responded, what the implications are. So as part of the 2027 service plan, which Katie's staff will be working on kind of, you know, halfway through 26, we will be looking at the data, the ridership collected from all of the changes that were made, not just that one specifically. We always do that. That's part of that annual process. And, you know, if something didn't work the way we anticipated, or it worked better than we anticipated, then those are part of the recommendations that you would see in that service plan saying, you know, either we did this wrong and we need to fix it, or, you know, we didn't put enough frequency because ridership has been more than we anticipated, those type of things. That would all be set out in that next service plan. But again, you know, looking within a short period of time like this, where it's just been implemented, is too soon to say whether it's been a success or a failure. And as Ms. Burns indicated, the ridership has exceeded what we thought on that new route, which is great news. And then we're hearing also, you know, from the delegation that there are people that don't like it. The unfortunate thing with public transit is it doesn't matter what change you make. There's always going to be people that like it and there's going to be people that don't, because it's a shared ride service and we do our best to meet everybody's needs.
Good to know, and just to follow up with that, I know we're having a public input session November the sixth for the
26th.
So hoping that we can get a lot of public input. I would really like to see how we can amplify that input session, because it's important for residents to be aware of and to bring forward their concerns too. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Trusser?
Yes, through the chair. I think what's different about this situation from the normal, well, we made a change and we normally want to wait a year before we go back on the change to evaluate it, is we have received data. And from what I can tell, this is a, I don't have the ability here to sort of ask questions about the methodology and get into the kinds of details that we would examine somebody with a study on. But it seems to me as if we have some pretty clear data here, and I'm wondering, has the staff had the opportunity to review this data? And if you had any concerns about it, talk to the proponents of the survey. Have you done that?
Through the chair, I don't believe we've had, I believe Ms. Burns had an initial
Initial.
conversation with the delegate prior to this data being shared. So there has been some back and forth, but we've not dug in. And again, I will reiterate, this is not uncommon when we have changes that we hear from the public. That's part of what we do, and certainly we're open to that feedback. But as, again, I'll just reiterate, as Ms. Burns said, we're also seeing very good ridership on that new route, on the new route. And that isn't the type of feedback that we generally hear from the public. So public is very much more apt to come and see us when they're not happy about something than when they are. So, you know, that data has to be measured as well. It's not simply just looking at the people that are raising their hand and saying, I don't like this change. We also have to make sure that we're checking that with the data of the actual ridership and seeing what's happening out there on the road.
Commissioner Trusser?
Yes, this is not a closed case. I mean, this is 95% of the students reporting the rerouting has negatively affected their well-being. 97, it negatively affects their outlook on LTC. I mean, that's very compelling to me, and it's very serious to me, because if, and by the way, it's great. I'm very happy to hear that the other route is successful, and I don't think there's anything here that mandates taking that back. My short-term worry is the safety and well-being of the students here, and the fact that they're going to just, at some point, they're going to stop taking the bus, and presumably, if they stop taking the bus, even though it's 2 hours, I don't think a lot of people are going to walk. I think we'll be looking at automobiles. This is compelling evidence that should warrant us taking a second look at this right away. And my ultimate sort of big worry is we are chipping away at the confidence that the students in this constituency have about the viability, the safety, and the reliability of our service. And if that's the case, we may be looking at losing the next referendum. And I'm not going to go into a long discussion here today about how devastating that would be to our finances. But I think we're getting a warning signal here today. And I think for us to just say, well, you know, the substitute is a good route, and it's part of transit to have to take transfers, and we usually don't look at this for the first year. I think we have to take this feedback very seriously, and I'm worried that we're not, which is why I made the motion. And I think it's compelling. There's compelling evidence here on the table that warrants us looking at this again. So I'll ask you to support the motion.
Any further comments or questions? I have one question. Commissioner Arnold?
Thank you. I'm just wondering if you could reread the motion.
The delegation for buy-in Saturn and the corresponding communication number 2 is received. And that LTC staff is directed to investigate the proposals contained in the delegation's communication number 2 and report back to the commission on the proposed changes with respect to route plan.
Thank you. So first I want to take a moment to thank Sam for the survey that was done and the corresponding recommendations that came along with it, as well as the personal stories, which I do think are very important to have in to provide more context. I agree that anytime you make a change, you want to hear that the change is going positively, but at the same time, I know the LTC is very open to hearing feedback when it isn't positive as well. I want to understand a few things, and I know this will also tie into the on-time performance metrics that we have in front of us today as well. And we have September's metrics, but we don't have exact metrics to overlay September 20th to October 20th, which is the timeline of this particular survey. But we do know in September that we typically have less on-time performance in general. The report, it says about 62%, I believe, for September, 63% for 2025. And I'm just wondering, again, with some of the shortages that we're experiencing, with the addition of the 6 additional buses that we have coming online between now and November 23rd, if we see any relief on this route in terms of that transfer time to help them to get to school on time or make adjustments within the on-time performance metric and the connection component of the route.
I mean, yeah, go ahead, Kate.
Through the chair, yes, so there are some buses that have been taken off currently on the Route 27. So once we are back to full service, which is anticipated for November 23rd, there would be additional frequency along that corridor. In addition, there are services that have been taken off of Route 13, which is that service that goes between Masonville and the university, which we heard about at the last meeting being a concern. So that will provide more frequency for that connection as well. So we kind of really need to see what is happening once we're back to full service. Once we're able to add additional trippers at full service and able to add some additional trippers to help out in areas to see where we are with the service levels and if adjustments need to be made.
Thank you. Okay, so I am prepared to support the receiving of a report and the delegation. One of the things I think I personally need is I need more time in order to evaluate this and to get a better sense of what those changes in terms of our on-time performance metrics around frequency, what that comes out at for October, to get a sense of what those additional buses into the system and those changes for the end of November would look like. In order to know whether or not they are starting to address some of these issues before I can make a full decision as to additional next steps that need to be taken, I think, at this point. So I won't support the motion. I would support, and I'm sure it would come anyways, a report back for the next meeting and subsequent meetings, as well as I would really appreciate a briefing note in between those time periods as well, just to be able to inform constituents of any improvements or concerns that we're addressing or any other potential complications that we're running into. So I won't support the portions of the motion that involve looking at the recommendations that are outlined yet. I think we need more time. And I think that more time will give us indicators of what might be some of the additional solutions. Again, I think it's important to note, we do not have a lot of buses to add into systems and we don't have enough service hours. So with those two components lacking, it's difficult to just move a service or agree to move the service at this time. So I do think there's things that we have to give a bit more time and shape to allow for a decision on. And I do think that it would also help to get more feedback, because although this is great to get the perspectives of students from this angle and from this avenue, I would like to see us use our upcoming conversation with the community to be able to inform some of these conversations as well. So we get not just one part of the service, but the rest of the route as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? I have one question. So my understanding of all of this is that, you know, we've made some changes to the routes, and we've increased 127. So if we're falling down that pathway, the only way to resolve this potentially would be to add like more buses going up the 10 to try and increase that frequency, or one, like it was mentioned, express to West Mill. So I'm wondering, would staff know like how many service hours and how many buses that would be required? And my second question to that would be, we were following this 5-year service plan and we've got, you know, all of these service hours allocated to different things. Would this one be near the top, or how would we know where this would be in our 5-year service plan if we were trying to do, for example, an express route from West Mount to
Yeah, so through the chair, at this point, we don't have the information as far as how many hours it would take to put in express route. That is something we can obviously do. It's something right off the top of the head. And through the 5-year service plan, it was not recommended for any express routes along the Wonderland corridor, specifically between Westmount and the university. But that being said, through our annual service planning process, we do evaluate all of the requests that come in through customers, operators, and what we're seeing on the road as far as operational issues. So although it may not be initially included in the 5-year plan, that's not to preclude us from being able to look at it as we do our annual service planning assessment.
And then one follow-up, I know the chair, sorry. In the draft service plan, there's reference, for example, from King's University Students' Council request to stop, and that was kind of evaluated. There's 2 paragraphs about, you know, this time, given all these considerations, it's not feasible. Is that something that I feel like that we have kind of we have that as well with the 10, like very preliminarily, but is that kind of the review and assessment? And then when you're doing the service plan, that would be the level, like the information we receive as commission regarding, like, we evaluated it, here are the conditions for why or why not we can do it. So my question would be, is that kind of where you would let us know if it's possible or not possible at that time?
Yes.
Thank you. Any final questions or comments on the motion? Do people want me to split it, or would we, yes, okay, I'm seeing one nod. So I guess the first part of the motion would be to receive the delegation and letter, and then the second part would be to look at the proposals and report back. I know I'm summarizing that fairly quickly, but that's generally the 2 areas. So if there's no further comments or questions, I will break those out. So first motion being to receive the letter and delegation, all in favor? That carries. And then the second being to look at their proposals and report back. So all in favor? And any opposed? Okay, so that one. So thank you again very much. We've dispense with those 2 items, and we'll be moving now along to item number 3, the report for accessible public transit service advisory. Thank you. Number 3, APSAC committee meeting minutes, and I'll get a mover and seconder to accept those. Moved by Commissioner Hopkins, seconded by Commissioner Robin. Any comments or questions based on those minutes? Okay, seeing none, motion to receive, all in favor? And any opposed, that carries. Next being a letter from myself, so I'll turn the chair over to Vice Chair Rahman to chair.
Thank you. As the chair, we have received a communication from Commissioner Chair Frank. And for communication is regarding specialized transit that's in front of you. I will go to Chair Frank to move her letter and, look for a seconder and we'll ask some session.
Thank you. And so this letter, I would like a motion to receive it, and then the items that are specifically bulleted would be the actual motion for direction to staff. For a report back at a future date. This is in regards to a couple of phone conversations I've had with some users of specialized transit service in regards to picking up food hampers from specifically the Lung Food Bank, but it could be attributed to kind of anytime they're bringing multiple boxes of food on, and some issues that they've had where they have multiple food boxes or bags, they might not be able to bring them all on, and understanding that there is, from discussions with staff, some safety impacts of having multiple boxes and bags, but wanting to try to do our very best to ensure that people are able to bring all their items home without compromising the safety of other members on the bus or the operators as well. And additionally ensuring that those policy guidelines are on the website. When I did a review, I'm sure they're somewhere, but when I did a quick review, I could only find the reference to the grocery section that I put in italics. And so I struggled to find what were the specific guidelines that were being requested to the riders. So the 4-part motion was my way of just trying to ensure that we have looked at this, addressed it to the best of our ability, and communicated that to the members of the public. And with that, I will sit at the end of my comments.
So look for a seconder.
I'll second it.
Councilor President, okay, and, any questions or comments? Mr. Trumper, go ahead.
Having had the privilege with the chair sitting on the advisory committee for, what is it, 3 or 4 meetings now? I'm getting the sense that there are certain persistent issues that keep coming up, either with respect to including them in requests for proposal or changing policies. It's difficult for people with limited mobility to be able to gather their food in a safe and secure way. And if their method of transportation is our specialized service, what are people supposed to do if we have a policy that says you really can't bring big items? It's not like you can just run down to the grocery store on a whim if you need to pick something up. For this clientele with limited mobility, this is a immediate matter of food security. We talk a lot about food security, but even if you have the money to buy the groceries, and even if you have a refrigerator to be able to store them, if you can't transport the groceries to your home, you don't have them. So I really think that we should be dealing with this, and I'm very, very happy that the chair brought this forward, and I was happy to second it. But this is also something that needs to be addressed with respect to the service model of what the successful bidder on the contract is doing. That's not on the table now, so I'm not gonna raise this right now with respect to the RFP, but it has come up. And it's a persistent concern. So I'll be supporting this, and I think we need to start looking at things from the perspective of our riders, which I don't think we do.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Commissioner Hawkins.
Thank you. Just a quick question, through you to staff on, when are we expecting to have the accessibility plan brought to us? Is that a possibility as we,
Through the chair, so you have the draft plan here somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Number 6, essentially it's going back, it's out for public consultation. So we've got a survey out right now. It will be the subject of consultation at the November drop-in session. It will go back to the advisory committee at their November 11th meeting and then come to the commission on November 17th for that meeting.
Okay, yeah, happy to support this motion. I too have heard the the challenges, and it really gets to what are people to do when it comes to bringing in food home. So, thank you for, the motion. Look forward to the information coming back to us.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion moved and seconded. It includes the review of the current specialized transit policy, examining options for accommodating essential items, ensuring that the policy guidelines are clear, communicated, and accessible, and incorporating these considerations into the upcoming review of the accessibility plan. Any further questions or comments before I call vote?
On
All those in
four,
Yes.
and receipt of the letter, yes. Okay, seeing no further questions, all in favor? No. Excuse me, and that carries. I will return the chair to Chair Frank.
Thank you, and now moving to consent items, so we have 11. Would anyone like any pulled separately? Commissioner Croswell?
I'd like to pull eight.
Any others? Okay, so I'm seeing none, so then I look for a motion to receive all others except for 8. Moved by Commissioner Hopkins, second by Commissioner Rahman, and any questions or comments on the remainder? All items for 8. Commissioner Rahman.
Thank you. I'll get us started. So I want to start with staff report. We have this number 8. So it's staff report number 1 though. And specifically, the item that I was concerned with was around. Sorry, 10.16, the Highbury facility construction project. In it, it mentions that we went out for a preliminary tender. Just wondering if we could speak to that process, what types of questions that came back prompted us to take the action.
Sure, through the chair, essentially, I think it was a misunderstanding by the proponents of the scope of the project. It appeared, we can't tell who the actual bidders are because it's all through bids and tenders, but it appeared as though there were a number of proponents who were construction contractors, but we were actually looking for the prime consultant to oversee. So there were a lot of questions that were getting very deep into the weeds about things that's not what it was about. And we were just concerned that we were going to be inundated with responses from people that weren't, that were misbidding essentially. So what we decided to do was pull that, go back to a 2-stage process. So we'll do an RF qual first, identify qualified candidates, and then move on to the second phase. We don't anticipate that this will impact the project timelines in any way, shape, or form, because even with the old one, it was likely going to be first quarter before we would be coming to the commission with a recommendation, just once you build in Christmas and everything into the schedule. So we don't anticipate that it will impact timelines, but we believe this will be a better process in the end, and we'll actually get quality bids through the process.
Thank you. That's very helpful. And I know that sometimes, that is the process, that it just takes a little bit more time to flesh out. But there were no concerns generally with within the scope of work. It was the understanding of the scope of the work. And I just want to be clear about that. And so with that, it won't push our timelines back, which is great. However, from a costing perspective, when would we anticipate getting better ideas of cost?
Through the chair. So this one, once it's finalized, is the costing for the consultant who will revisit the initial recommendations just to confirm that still makes the most sense. Do a detailed design. Once that detailed design is done, they will also then prepare the documents for tender. So this RFP will talk about the cost of just that oversight piece. until such time as the tender is issued and bid on, I mean, obviously that's the lion's share of the project. So until such time as that happens, we won't really have a good understanding of costs. We do have included in the RFP for the consultant though, to do a Class D estimate at the time of detailed design. So to give us some kind of indication of where they think the costs will land, which is similar to what we did when we undertook this study the first time. So that Class D estimate would probably be the first opportunity for the commission, and obviously that will be shared as we've got it. That would be the first opportunity to get a general idea of where the costs, would come in.
Thank you. Chair, just to ask you a question, do you want to take this report by report, or do you want us to kind of jump around anywhere? I just don't know if it's helpful for everyone to go through one report at a time, or is it? Okay, so I will jump around then. I have some questions about 4.3 under specialized booking scheduling software updates in the next report. So within that document, phase 2 implementation, it seems really promising that there's about 16% of active regular riders that are using, 10.9% of them booking trips on the service. We did talk about perhaps looking at more metrics around having a number that we would like to target ourselves outside of what we seem to see as industry average. I'm just wondering when we might expect receiving something with our own internal targets of what we'd like to see or of how much capacity serve as well on the online booking.
Yeah, through the chair, I can start. And we did notice a typo just this morning that 6,570 should be 657, right, Sean?
670.
Or 670. There's there's a typo there. So the percentages are accurate. It's just that number that's not accurate. But as we talk, I think we talk in one of the reports about the voice of the customer surveys that will be occurring in early November. And a couple of the questions on that survey specific to Specialized are targeted at finding out if respondents are utilizing the customer portal, and if not, why not, those type of things. So that will help inform us as to, why the uptake has been what it's been. And then from that, we should be able to come back with with recommendations on how we may be able to improve that based on what we're seeing. And that could, we could provide a target at that time. So traditionally, the way voice of the customer works is happens in early November. We get the results sometimes before Christmas, sometimes after, but they would typically come to the commission at the January meeting, the preliminary results. And then at the February meeting, the commission receives the annual customer service reports for both conventional and specialized, where that marries both the voice of the customer as well as all of the contacts that we receive and our various other performance metrics. So you would get a more in-depth in February, and that's where we would identify, areas we need to work on and what initiatives we would recommend.
Thank you. I'll yield my questions for somebody that's on.
Sure. Any other questions on the remainder of the items? Okay, Commissioner Hopkins.
I have a number of questions, but I don't want to. I can always follow up staff on them at the moment. There was a lot of great information here. I enjoyed the reading, believe it or not. So lots of information. I do want to just maybe make just a couple comments around the human resources. So that was 4.5. I think there's a lot of great work that the LTC is doing, and we encourage LTC to continue the work emphasizing, especially on the training and the development and the diversity and the mutual respect. Those programs, I think, it's very easy to stop talking about them. And I really think that it's really important to keep the focus and the importance and also the challenges of recruitment and retention as well when it comes to the technicians. I want to make a comment on number 12 as well, the conventional service plan for 2026.
It's like we're looking at 1 to 11.
Oh, 1 to 11.
Yeah.
Oh, so I won't go into 12 then. And maybe, making a comment on, let's see. Where I am with my numbers here. I think for now, I'll just, let it be. Thank you. So 8 is full.
It was, yeah, so, yeah, 1 to 11 minus 8. Any other comments or questions on the remainder?
Okay,
Commissioner Roberts?
that's me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to say congratulations on the partnership with Western Fair. It continues to be quite a success. The numbers were encouraging. I think it was a great year for the fair and a great year for LTC and that partnership, so well done. I again wanted to thank our HR team for the work for their work on providing the program as well as the performance review process. That was really helpful. It's good to see that we're heading into a process, although I think it is a bit of a challenging process this year for the general manager perspective, only because we are new. So being able to provide ample feedback in a shorter period of time, I think is a little bit more challenging for this potential year. What I may suggest is that we look at a different process in order to give and to align better with the principles that were outlined in our policy or in our management process, associated with how we do performance management. And that specifically speaks to having more of a balanced and well-rounded approach to how we engage and get feedback. And specifically because we only have one employee, and that is the general manager, that would be looking at whether or not the feedback should come not just from commissioners, but also from staff or others within that within your area of direct report. I think that might be helpful just to provide more context, especially because we've had less time this year. So I'm wondering if it would, I guess, I don't know process wise, if it's better for me to bring a letter into November's meeting. One, looking at a difference in timeline for the performance management of the general manager to take place even 1 to 2 cycles later, just to give us more time, one, but two, also to allow us to do more thorough feedback and surveying, and whether or not that surveying should be done internally or we should be looking external to do it. I think with the type of survey that was confidential as it is in nature, I think it could be done internally at this time and then look at for future processes to look at either a consultant or somebody else to make it a more thorough process. But I guess I'll ask the chair what the best way forward is, because I'm not sure if it's better to bring that as a discussion out of this report for the next month.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense to submit a letter for the November agenda. That being said, maybe perhaps Ms. Galloway, if we don't do anything until that November one, will you send out that survey, knowing that we are planning to maybe delay it a little bit? For the general manager?
Through the chair, I can hold off on sending that if that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Until you come up with a plan that works for you.
Ms. Roman?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm trying to, not compare other agencies, boards and commissions that we're involved in to LTC, but I do see value in potentially having a subcommittee doing some work on this. And really establishing more of a policy. What I saw from our own internal documents is just that, or not internal, external as well, I guess. Our documents basically show us that we don't have a very formalized process when it comes to how to evaluate the general manager, but also just within our own process that there's some tweaks and that we need to look at. So I'd be open to a subcommittee discussion, but I'll put that in November. Thank you.
Any comments, questions on the remainder? Seeing none, let's be moved and seconded. So I'll call the vote for items 1 to 11 minus 8. All in favor to receive? And any again? Yeah, carries, and we are on to item 8. Yeah, and also thank you, staff, for all the reports. I know it's just good. We read them all, we like. Okay, Commissioner Trust, I think you told 8, if you'd like to get started.
Yes, through the chair, I'm not sure I need to make an amendment, so I did want to pull it, but I do have some questions and maybe this is just information that can be provided in the next report without the need for a motion. I am referring to the ridership and other statistics versus actual budget at the bottom of the first page of step report 8. And the column that I'm most interested in, and the one that creates most concern for me, is the variance. And if I understand that right, that is the difference between the actual ridership and what was budgeted for. Is that correct?
Yeah, through the chair, yeah, the actual budget, the third column is explaining the variance to that and the percentage. And then the 24 actual is just including a percentage variance, not a actual number on them, but more of a percentage.
Okay.
Commissioner Trust?
The reason why I think the variance is a crucial metric here is one could take the variance numbers out of context and make the claim that we're over budgeting and we're not using it. So if anything, maybe we should just be making less ambitious budgets. And I think that's not the case. And I'm very worried about that because I don't think that this variance is a one-time anomaly. If in fact it was just something that happened right at the beginning of the new software, I could understand that. But having gone back, and I've done a little bit of extra research here that was not contained in this report, and it's in the reports. I mean, I'm not saying we're not getting the information, but in order to understand the trajectory of this crucial variance metric over time, I think it would be useful to have in our next staff report a list of at least actual budget and variance going back 6 months, a year, whatever is convenient. I don't know if it's necessary to do a motion to do that. Now, I've gone back and I've pulled this out from the previous staff reports. March 31st, the variance was 10,000. April was 10,000. May, it went up to 13,000. July, it went up to 19,000. August, it went up to 21,000. And in this report, it's at 22,243. So what I'd like to try to understand is why is the variance going on?
I can start and certainly Mike can jump in, but if we look at the kind of the paragraph immediately following that table at the top of page 2, the way we arrive at our budgeted ridership for specialized is it's a very simple factor compared to what we do on the conventional side. It's essentially, we estimate how many rides per service hour we will be able to do. And in this case, if we look back at that report, when we budgeted, so when that budget was tabled, we assumed that we would be able to do 2 rides per hour. So you simply take the number of hours and you multiply that by 2 and you say that's our ridership. Now, obviously that changes by month because the levels of service are different by month. So you would anticipate, and if we look back at that table, you'll see that we've only actually achieved on average 1.84 rides per hour. So it's not about the fact that the service that we have budgeted isn't out there. It's about the fact that we haven't achieved the 2 rides per hour that we assumed we would achieve in the budget. That was more problematic at the beginning of the year, as the commissioner just mentioned, because when we were going through the implementation of the new system, it took time for the parameters to get in place. But you would expect that will continue through the remainder of the year because that budget of 2 per hour was what we budgeted for the entire year. This is something again that we look at each year. So when Mike and his team prepared the 2026 budget, we took into account, what we're actually getting in terms of rides per hour, and we adjusted that to hopefully have a better ridership projection going forward.
Commissioner Trussa?
Would it be possible in our next report and in subsequent reports, because you've already collected this information, so I'm not asking you to do any research. If you show us the time series, so we can see what the recent trend has been.
Staff?
Yeah, like, you're referring to wanting to see it each month as opposed to a cumulative year to date.
Yes, and not the entire aggregate of statistics here, but the variance is what I'm interested
Thank you, sorry, that was distracting.
in.
Um,
And if you can do that without a motion, I won't make a motion.
would you be able to do that? Motion?
Okay.
Yes, okay.
She said yes, okay. Now, the unfavorable year-to-date variance in trips per service, Howard, is largely due to the impacts of the implementation of the new scheduling software. What else? It says largely. What is not largely? What are the other elements that go into the variance?
Again, through the chair, the rest of that sentence, the fewer service hours than budgeted. So if we were off slightly by a few service hours, that equates to only 146 trips of the total 22,000. So it's a very minor share. The predominant impact is again what I just explained, which is the difference in the hours that we budgeted or the rides per hour that we budgeted versus what we're actually achieving.
Through the chair.
I can through the chair. So they're impacting the rides per every service hour were multiple things. Largely, as Katie said, was the system, but not unlike the conventional service, the specialized service operates in the same environment, which is very difficult to service right now with the amount of construction that's happening and the ability to provide service as quickly as we used to. So that's another piece that's impacted.
Commissioner Trussa?
Is a potential reason for the increase in the variance the fact that we need more buses during peak hours, more vehicles during peak hours?
No, through the chair, again, this is purely a budget versus reality. The way that we measure whether we need more hours is we look at our non-accommodated, which I think it's in staff report number 3. Where we look at the number of trips that we're unable to accommodate. So trips that have been requested that we're unable to accommodate, that's how we measure. And that's why when we get to staff report 13, we look at the times of day of week, times of year, where that demand is exceeding our capacity, and that's where we put those hours in place.
Commissioner Trussa, also I'll just note that Commissioner Lehman had to leave, and so, still for him, but Commissioner Trussa?
Well, I'm still concerned about the increase in the variance. If it were largely due to the implementation of the new software system, you'd think that variance would not be increasing, in fact, it would be subsiding. So, I don't know what to propose here. But I'm glad to hear that we'll be seeing this time series in subsequent reports. I'll have more to say about this then when I read the next report. I really hope that the variance goes down next month. Am I correct in saying that all else being equal, we'd like to see the variance go down as opposed to going up? Is that correct?
Yeah, through the chair, you might not see it go down, because if you hit the projection next month, you hit if you hit the number of rides per service hour next month, that's the budget, so you won't see it decline, but you wouldn't see it increase anymore. And just to note, it's not, you'll likely see this impact with the monthly trend. But September was actually a very good month in terms of rides per service hours. I believe we got to 1.97, which was almost the budget. So it did contribute a little bit more to that variance of not achieving as much as we hoped in terms of rides, but significantly better than the 1.84 rides per service hour average.
Okay, well, that's been very helpful, and I'm not going to make another motion. This is fine as it is, but in the future, I think the problem is, especially as a new commissioner, we have little pieces of information spread across different reports, spread across different months, which isn't to say that we shouldn't be doing our homework and reading all of our reports and going back and doing a historical analysis of the last 6 reports to see what the trends are. But if the staff in preparing these reports could make it a little easier for members of the commission and the public to discern these trends, it would be much appreciated. And I'll leave it there for now.
I did have a question to follow up on that. Is there no, concept that to reduce the number of budgeted trips per service hour because we want to hit the 2, or like, is there any benefit to doing that? Because otherwise it does look like we just have a really big variance. So for next year, would you want to put it at like 1.85? I'm not sure who to direct it to, but not saying we want to do less, but if it seems that we're not able to achieve to do the construction, then is there a benefit to changing the budgeted hours?
Through the chair, I'm almost positive that we use 1.9 for next year, based on the learnings of this. So that's what I was trying to allude to before, is we always monitor that and then we adjust accordingly so that we don't have a variance that really is just a bad estimate in terms of the budget process.
Okay, and then we'll still be able to, try to achieve, how many trips we want by using the other metrics that we're using. Like, this is just simply for budgeting purposes.
That's right.
Okay.
And quite honestly, if we got to 2.5 rides per hour, you would just see a variance the other way. That just means that we're being even more efficient than what we budgeted. So that there's nothing that stops us from that. That number really is just to arrive at a ridership number to be included in the budget.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on number 8? I'll need a motion to receive it then, moved by Commissioner Robbins, seconded by Commissioner Hopkins, and all in favor? And any opposed, so that carries. Thank you. So moving on to items for direction. So I'll do these separately. So item 12 first, conventional transit. Okay, so I come with 3 recommendations. So perhaps people want to get that on the floor. We can move in a second for the recommendations and go to questions. Okay, moved by Commissioner Robbins, second by Commissioner Hopkins, so it's on the floor. Any questions or comments on the draft service plan? Commissioner Hopkins.
Yeah, so my question is around the transit service plan changes, going to 20. One clarification for you, Madam Chair, on how, we're going forward. So we're looking at 24 hours, which includes the 18,000 hours, into the 24,000 hours. And, just want to know how we came up with that number. And then following up with that, the question for me remains, do we have enough buses, or where is that conversation? So any clarification you can give me as a commissioner, I appreciate it.
Through the chair, when we are preparing the draft service plan, we are looking at the 5-year service plan, the recommendations that were included in that, as well as the feedback we receive through operators, customers, and what we're seeing on the road as far as the current operational concerns. And what we do is we prioritize all of the changes that we think are the most important to be implemented in a given year. That usually means that we come with a draft service plan that has more hours than what has been approved for the 18,000. So what we will do, the next steps after this plan is approved in principle, we will then be getting feedback from the public to then be able to further refine and prioritize these service hours to get down to the 18,000 service hours that we will present in January as the final recommendations. But this way allows for the public to provide some input as far as what they're seeing as the priority, and then we'll reprioritize those, reducing the overall amount that will be implemented for 2026.
Commissioner Hopkins?
Yeah, just to follow up with that, so I understand we don't have the buses though, or we do for the 24,000. Thank you for that. And then as a follow-up, what are the priorities to get to the 24,000? So how did you look at prioritizing those numbers? Start the conversation.
Yep, through the chair, we started with the 5-year service plan and what was included as a recommendation to be implemented for 2026. And then we were looking at all of the feedback that we received. So just looking at the number of concerns with regards to crowding in certain areas, frequency of service, and then just kind of ranking those, prioritizing. As you'll see in the report, there's some images showing where on some of the routes, for instance, like the 31s, the graph and the map, seeing that there is significant crowding happening along there. So that one has kind of been moved up on the priority list over some other ones where while there may still be some crowding, it's not as much. We're seeing some decline as far as with the number of international students, specifically at the college. So there's been more of a priority on some of routes like the 31 that are going to Western, where we are seeing that increase in crowding that we hadn't initially expected.
Thank you for that. And just as one last follow-up, so the crowding, the declining, looking at how the routes are used, how do we introduce new routes into areas as well?
Yeah, through the chair, when we had brought back the assessment growth business case, that is where we're looking at expanding into new areas. So that will be going through the budget process to be looking at additional service hours to be able to expand to those new areas.
And just to refresh my memory, assessment growth, we will be looking at to incorporate into our budget as well. Is that, I know it's been brought up before. Where is that?
Through the chair, so the commission did approve an assessment growth business case for 2026. But typically, just the way the city's budget process works, that would get approved kind of first quarter of 2026, the assessment growth allocations. And the way that business case went forward was it would cover the cost of the buses required to implement the service, if you recall. So essentially the first 2 years, 26 and 27, the assessment growth amount will cover the cost of the buses. So that will allow us to order the buses in 26 as soon as it's approved. And then the implementation would be either late, it may be early 2028. Like it may be first in the year, depending on when the buses arrive, but that was the approach that we took.
Thank you for that. And I'm always stuck at how can we move the process going forward with meaning the 2028 and the need is now in 2025. But I really know there's a process and there's we have to meet all the requirements. The budget, the city's budget is different to our budget. That I just wish that we would be able to get those services in a little bit soon. So just a comment, and really appreciate the information. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? For sure.
Thank you. Since this is our first time kind of through the process, I just wanted to ask some other questions. So we talked about taking community feedback on what's in front of us, and then from there, further refining our decisions around how that will, what the 18,000 hours will end up shaping out to be. As we've heard today, as we've heard from Western, as we've heard from Kings, as mentioned in the report, there is considerable feedback around specific additional changes that potentially could be a feedback outweigh what's in front of us. How do we make those decisions?
Through the chair, and Katie can certainly jump in again, but the report that you'll get back in January will include a summary of essential, obviously you're not going to get copies of all the survey respondents, but a summary of all of the feedback that we've collected and the rationale for why what has been prioritized is being prioritized. And as set out in the report, we do have sessions that we're looking to schedule at both Western and Fanshawe, as well as the larger drop-in session. So obviously just based on that, the feedback from students will be well represented, given that there are those two specific sessions.
For sure.
Thank you. And so when we receive that feedback, is it quantified? Is it numeric feedback? We received X percentage wise from here on this specific route.
Yeah, typically where we can. I mean, obviously some of it is just people emailing into planning, right? It's not everybody goes through the survey, but where we are able to quantify, that is included in the final recommended report.
But it's not a vote per se, and it's not them deciding what the service will be by way of that feedback. So I just want to clarify that. And I further want to clarify how we see it aligning with our strategic plan, but also how we see it aligning with the work that we're doing. if increasing reliability is our number one component of our decision making, let's say, then I assume even with feedback, we'll prioritize reliability.
Through the chair, yes, and if we go back to the 5-year plan, the previous commission approved us holding off on the creation of our business plan and our associated 5-year plan until such time as council had finished their strategic plan to make sure that those documents align. So the 5-year service plan that Ms. Burns is talking about, same with Specialized, as well as the 2024 to 2027 business plan was all done subsequent to council approving that strategic plan, so that we did make sure everything was aligned. But yes, there are key priorities in the 5-year service plan, and I think one of the fundamental priorities that we've held strong to is we always want to make sure that we're trying to maintain our existing riders versus, you know, wholesale, let's expand. If we can't meet the demand of our existing riders and there's a potential that we're going to start to lose them, it doesn't make sense to use those 18,000 hours or whatever that number is that we've got to work with to try to jump ahead and expand somewhere where we know we've already got a customer base that isn't necessarily being served adequately. So that's always been the approach. Unfortunately, because we've always been limited to the number of hours that we've got to work on, if you look at enclosure 2 here, you'll see there's a lot of hours outstanding in terms of requests that we would love nothing more than to be able to implement. Unfortunately, we have to work within, you know, work within the budget that we're allocated.
Sure.
Thank you, that's helpful. I look forward to being part of those feedback sessions and hearing from the community. I understand the frustration that you must feel, but also that the public must feel with the limitations of the service and what we're able to do within those limited 18,000 hours. What I'm hoping is that in the final approved plan, the communication strategy that goes along with that, around how do we do better, build better, become better, is really clearly defined as we move forward. So here's all the alternatives that we weighed, that we couldn't do, that we'd like to do. Here's some of how we get there. You can see and attach and go to our assessment growth ask and some of our other communication. But also here's the things we heard that we haven't fully scoped out yet, but we hear you and we're going to continue to look into it. So that people don't just feel frustrated without having an avenue for knowing that concerns their concerns.
Any other comments, questions? I have one. So I noticed on here there's 2 Saturday late evenings. You guys permit me from the chair. So on 6 and then 31, it looks like they'll extend to 1 a.m. Are those the latest, and do those go through downtown, and then where do they go?
Through the chair, we currently do have some of our routes that are extended to 1 a.m. And when we started those were the routes that go through downtown. And that was where the priority. Now the goal is to get the rest of the routes extended to 1 a.m. Weekdays and Saturdays. So now we're starting to look at some routes. The Route 6 does go through downtown. The Route 31 is more up in the northwest, connecting the Aldersbrook area to Western University. So you'll start to see with the future service plans that you're seeing routes that we're proposing to extend to 1 a.m. that may not necessarily go through downtown because we already have made the focus on those routes and they're already extended.
Thank you. And do we have any that go till 2 a.m.?
No, through the chair, the latest our service goes is 1 a.m. Now that is 1 a.m. leaving the core. So service may, you know, by the time you get out to the edges, our latest buses do come in at about 2 a.m. But as far as last trips, it's about 1 a.m. With the exception of New Year's Eve when it does get extended.
Thank you. I do know that there's been some discussions about that, so perhaps we'll have some more input in the next month or so on some of these extensions. And then the only other question I had was regarding KCC, the King's item. Has that been this kind of information been communicated to the proponent at King's in regards to the request?
Through the chair, yes, that has been communicated through them, and there will be some further engagement with the students through this engagement process.
Thank you. All I have, but yeah, making very tough decisions with the resources we have, so I appreciate you doing it so thoughtfully and thoroughly. It's so many different improvements. Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the dry service plan? Seeing none, then we have over a second on that, so then I will call the vote, all in favor? And any opposed? Yep, noting one opposition, but that carries with 3. Moving on to item 13, specialized transit. There is 2 recommendations there as well to approve and to the administration for a copy to council. Get that on the floor, look for mover second. Moved by Commissioner Hopkins, and seconded by myself. Excellent. Okay, so any comments or questions on the specialized transit service plan? Okay, seeing none, then I'll call a vote to approve and direct administration. All in favor?
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Thank you. Sorry, I just want to confirm that this went to APSA for conversation and wanted to get an update for that.
Through the chair, this specific report did not go to APSAC, but we do share the stats and the commentary with respect to where we're seeing non-accommodated trips and what the plan would be going forward. So in typical fashion, this really is it's a commission budget allocation decision. So there have been discussions at that committee, but this report specifically did not go.
Sure.
Thank you. So when does it go to them?
Typically, like budget, after the fact. So once the commission has approved it, we would go to APSAC and say, this will be the focus of these hours going forward.
Sure.
Can I amend the motion?
Sure. So move in second, so you got it.
So I would like to see consultation with APSAC on the draft version. So I'm not so sure it can be presented to them at the next meeting. That's sorry. I would like it to be presented to them at the next meeting.
Okay, so consultation with APSAC in November. I don't know if I get a second or go to staff for comment. Is that second? So second, I don't know if staff want to comment on that or if that's feasible.
No, the only comment I would have is again, now we won't get confirmation on this until the November commission meeting, so that may impact the contractor's ability to staff up to be effective January 1. So, and again, that's not to say we won't use the budget, we'll adjust accordingly, but it may be delayed depending on, because we're giving them less notice. That's why we brought this up this.
Commissioner Robin, so like, are you still at 1 and 2?
Yeah.
Because if we approve 1 and 2, then it will still move forward. It's just that you want some consultation. You want like I guess it'll be in the minutes, and then we can read the minutes if there's feedback on this.
So you're
Yeah.
still moving, okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I misunderstood. I thought you were saying, go and then bring this back.
Okay. So it would be to approve it, but then take it to APSAC and then feedback or feedback. Okay. Okay, so still proceeding. Okay, so that moved and seconded. Any comments on the amendment and consultation? Commissioner Trosser?
Yeah, I'm just not clear what the amendment is now, so if this is, we've already approved this, and by the way, this is what it was, this is what it is, this is for your information. Is that what we're doing, or are we asking for their feedback on it?
Commissioner Roy?
Thank you. My understanding is this is in draft form. So
Okay.
if we're approving in draft, we're saying we support this in draft. Please provide your commentary and feedback at the meeting before we finalize. So I think that it's a good interim step to be able
Yes.
to see.
What you just said, I would agree with. Thank you.
Through the chair, so that wasn't my understanding was that the commission is approving this today. If you're not, and you want to have it come back in November, then that's fine. We can interpret that based on that discussion.
Okay, so you can still approve the form of saying approve the draft, and then you'll come back in November with the final, with comments from outside. Okay. Any further comments or questions? This is just on the amendment to add the consultation with APSAC in November. Bring it back. Okay, so all in favor? Any opposed? That carries. So the amendment's been added, and so then now I'll need a motion to receive the three items with the amended part. So moved by Commissioner Roman, seconded by Commissioner Hopkins. Okay, so that's now all three items are together and on the floor. Any final comments on the floor? All vote. Calling the vote, all in favor? And any opposed? So that carries. Okay. And then Third item, primary service provider for specialized transit reflection proposal. So this is a recommendation to be received for information. Moved by Commissioner Howard Brahman, sorry. And then seconded by Commissioner Hopkins, on the floor. Motion to receive is on the floor. Any questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, call the vote. All in favor of receiving and any opposed? Okay, passes with 3.
No,
Oh, you did? Oh, wonderful. Passes with 4, even better. Okay, so that is all those items. So now we have an in-camera item to move in camera consistent with the provision of section 239 of the Municipal Act. The Commission will move in camera to consider the following matter pertaining to an update of labor relations or employee negotiations. So I need a motion to move camera, moved by Commissioner Robbins, second by Commissioner Hopkins. And let's take a minute to. Thank you. And the final item is a reminder, our next meeting date is Monday, November 17th at 9:30 here. And that will be circulating some information about the LTC Christmas party. So mark your calendars. Otherwise, I have no other matters, so I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Commissioner Robbins, second by Commissioner Hopkins, and all in favor? And we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your Monday. Thanks, Leslie.